From 1979 to 1988, The Facts of Life was the comfort show of millions of American households. But behind all that laughter were lives filled with loss, actors fired without warning, marriages that collapsed, illnesses that consumed entire decades, and deaths that left fans stunned. And now, in 2025, the truth about their lives has finally come to light. In a way you won't soon forget. Charlotte Rae as Edna Garrett, Mrs. G. Charlotte Rae was born on April 22, 1926 in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. In 1979, at 53 years old, she took on the role of Edna Garrett, the gentle mother figure of the entire school, a character America fell in love with on The Facts of Life. But behind that warmth was a heart nearly worn out by life. And when she stepped into the series, Charlotte carried pain she had never dared put into words. Her 25-year marriage collapsed when her husband publicly came out as bisexual during an era drowning in stigma, pushing Charlotte into long nights of drinking just to numb the humiliation and loneliness. Both her sons suffered from severe illnesses. One died young, the other lived his entire life battling mental illness, placing crushing emotional weight on her shoulders. That pressure eventually led her to turn down a $5 million contract to stay for 2 more seasons because she no longer had the strength to keep smiling. Illness struck as if life were testing her one final time. A pacemaker, open heart surgery, pancreatic cancer, then bone cancer. Yet Charlotte still carried herself with the softness fans always remembered. Sadly, Charlotte Rae passed away on August 5, 2018, in Los Angeles, at the age of 92. She died quietly in her small home, leaving behind a net worth of about $5 million in royalties. Lisa Whelchel as Blair Warner. Lisa Whelchel was born on May 29, 1963, in Littlefield, Texas. In 1979, at just 16, she became Blair Warner, the beautiful, sharp-tongued, rich girl of The Facts of Life. On screen, she seemed confident and radiant, but in reality, Lisa was a young girl raised inside a suffocatingly strict religious environment. The conflict between her faith and her true self pushed her into private battles fans never saw. When writers wanted Blair to lose her virginity on the show, Lisa refused, even though it nearly cost her the role, because she couldn't allow herself to betray what she believed. Her marriage to Pastor Stephen Cauble later trapped her even deeper in the mold of the perfect Christian wife, until that life shattered after 24 years, leaving Lisa isolated amid depression, confusion, and a faith that no longer felt whole. She joined Survivor, Philippines like someone fighting to reach the surface again, wanting both to prove her strength and to escape her past. She finished second and won fan favorite, but was criticized as fake for crying too often. After the show, she started her life from scratch, writing books, speaking publicly, and teaching others how to heal. In 2025, at 62, Lisa lives in Lancaster, California, with her new husband, psychologist Pete Harris, and works as a life coach and host of Collector's Call. Her net worth of around $8 million is the result of a journey filled with moments of falling, rising, and falling again. Cloris Leachman as Beverly Ann Stickle. Cloris Leachman was born on April 30, 1926, in Des Moines, Iowa. In 1986, at 60 years old, she joined The Facts of Life as Beverly Ann Stickle, the quirky, warm-hearted woman who appeared in the final 2 seasons and brought a completely new energy to the show. But behind her sharp comedic timing was a life that knew no boundaries. Her 26-year marriage to George England was an adventure unlike anyone else's. The two openly agreed to a non-monogamous marriage, publicly admitted to having affairs, and lived with a level of personal freedom most people would never dare imagine. But that freedom came with heartbreak. Their son Brian died young, leaving Cloris to continue her life with a void nothing could ever fill. She threw herself into work with ferocity, becoming one of Hollywood's most demanding and uncompromising actresses. The older she grew, the more Cloris stunned Hollywood. Posing nude for PETA at 80, starring in a sex comedy at 84, smoking, drinking, and boldly declaring, "I'm not afraid of death, just of running out of booze." She lived as if every day were her last. But in the end, illness caught up with her. A stroke compounded by lung damage from COVID-19 left her unable to recover. Cloris Leachman died on January 27, 2021, in Encinitas, California, at the age of 94. She was cremated on February 7th, closing the final chapter of a woman who remained fearless to the end. Her net worth at the time was about $12 million, an Oscar winner, a record-breaking 8-time Emmy winner, and a force who left an irreplaceable mark on television history. Kim Fields as Dorothy Tootie Ramsey. Kim Fields was born on May 12, 1969, in New York City. In 1979, just 9 years old, but lying that she was 10 so she wouldn't get cut, she joined the Facts of Life as Dorothy Tootie Ramsey, the lively, bright-eyed girl who appeared in 200 episodes over 9 seasons. But behind all that cuteness was a childhood stolen by her own mother. From a very young age, Kim worked 14 to 16 hours a day under the strict control of her mother, Chip Fields, who was not only her manager but the person who dictated every aspect of her life. While fans saw a cheerful Tootie, Kim grew up under enormous pressure, body-shamed for being short, rejected from roles because of her height, and forced to mature long before she had a chance to be a child. The pressure became so heavy that in 1999 she was arrested while protesting against police brutality. Her personal life was equally marked by pain. Her first marriage ended after 10 years, and when she married Christopher Morgan, tabloids smeared him with rumors that he was gay, forcing Kim once again to carry the burden of defending her family against a vicious media. She fought to keep smiling, shifting into producing and directing not only to escape the spotlight, but also to reclaim control over her life. By 2025, Kim Fields is 56, living more peacefully with her husband and 2 sons. She has directed more than 70 sitcom episodes, stars in The Upshaws on Netflix, and chooses a life in which no one controls her except herself. Her net worth is estimated at around $9 million, modest by Hollywood standards, but proof that Kim has rebuilt her life entirely on her own terms. Nancy McKeon as Jo Polniacek. Nancy Justine McKeon was born on April 4, 1966, in Westbury, New York. In 1980, at just 14, she joined the Facts of Life as Jo Polniacek, the rebellious, sharp, justice-driven tomboy who instantly became an icon for an entire generation of girls who just wanted to be themselves. But outside the set, Nancy was a teenage girl crushed by the pressure to be perfect down to the last inch. Her youth was a constant balancing act between fame and fear. Her 3-year romance with Michael J. Fox seemed like a fairy tale, but it ended painfully when he asked her to give up acting for him, something Nancy simply could not do without betraying her own dreams. She chose her career, but the price was a heartbreak that haunted her for years. When her brother, Philip McKeon, child star of Alice, died in 2019 after a long illness, Nancy nearly broke completely. After years in front of the camera, Nancy did something Hollywood rarely forgives. She turned down major roles to become a full-time mother, retreating to a Texas ranch instead of chasing more fame. She writes, produces, directs small projects, and appears only occasionally on television, but always keeps a distance from show business. In 2025, Nancy McKeon is 59, living quietly on her Texas property with her husband and children, rarely giving interviews, almost entirely removed from public spotlight. Her estimated net worth is around $7 million, not dazzling by Hollywood standards, but enough for Nancy to live a life she alone controls, without sacrificing her health, her love, or her peace. Felice Schachter as Nancy Olson. Felice Schachter was born on November 17, 1963, in Queens, New York. In 1979, at age 16, she became Nancy Olson, the first all-American girl chosen for The Facts of Life, and also the first cast member to be removed when NBC abruptly restructured the show. A 16-year-old girl who thought she had finally touched her dream was thrown out of it just months later without a single explanation. The sudden firing devastated Felice, leaving her with a deep sense of betrayal. Hollywood had taken her youth and then abandoned her in the emptiness that comes when fame disappears overnight. She quit acting and pivoted toward academics as a way to escape the feeling that she wasn't good enough. She enrolled at Brown University, graduated in semiotics, and later worked as a sports broadcaster. In the 1990s, Felice returned to Hollywood, but behind the camera, not in front of it, producing, coordinating, and working in the shadows of projects she once dreamt of starring in. When life pushed her to the backstage, Felice chose something even more meaningful: becoming a special education teacher, a job she always calls the most beautiful role of my life. In 2025, Felice Schachter is 62, living quietly in New York, teaching and staying far away from Hollywood's chaos. She never returned to acting, but she found the peace that fame never gave her. Her current net worth is around $1 million. Julie Piekarski as Sue Ann Weaver. Julie Ann Piekarski was born on January 2, 1963, in St. Louis, Missouri. In 1979, at just 16, she appeared in The Facts of Life as Sue Ann Weaver, the sweet, gentle girl with the perfect smile, the kind that made viewers believe her life must be just as perfect. But when NBC fired nearly the entire first-season cast, Julie was among the ones discarded without mercy. The shock pushed her into years of unemployment, countless failed auditions, and long stretches spent wondering why the whole group was cut, yet somehow she felt the pain the most. She fell into depression, turned down many roles because of Hollywood's dirty demands at the time, and ultimately stepped away from acting to work as a local TV reporter. Her marriage to John Probst lasted over 30 years, but it too eventually fractured. After the divorce, her 3 grown children became her strongest support. As her acting career faded, Julie returned to Missouri, living quietly, volunteering at church, and appearing only rarely at nostalgic cast reunions. In 2025, Julie Piekarski is 62, living a peaceful life in St. Louis, occasionally acting when the right role appears, but mostly dedicating her time to family and charity work. Her current net worth is about $1 million. Molly Ringwald as Molly Parker. Molly Ringwald was born on February 18, 1968, in Roseville, California. In 1979, at just 11 years old, she joined The Facts of Life as Molly Parker, the spirited, feminist, sharp-thinking girl who questioned every injustice. But after only 1 season, Molly was cut when the cast was completely revamped, and at just 11, she learned Hollywood's first brutal lesson. The early hurt pushed Molly into a turbulent adolescence, becoming famous too soon, rising to Brat Pack stardom, and being scrutinized by the press so intensely that she fell into alcohol use before she was even out of her teens. Brief romances with famous musicians and actors only left her feeling emptier under the bright lights. After the massive success of 16 Candles, The Breakfast Club, and Pretty in Pink, Molly began to unravel under the pressure of maintaining her teen queen status, a title that felt more like a trap than an honor. As her Hollywood career slowed, Molly moved to France, choosing smaller roles and distancing herself from the industry's constant demands. Marriage fell apart and came back together with her current husband, and the birth of 3 children helped Molly find balance again. She has admitted that her darkest period was when she believed she had nothing left but the past. But newer roles in Riverdale and Monster have proven she still has much to offer. In 2025, Molly Ringwald is 57, living between France and New York, continuing to act, write books, and translate literature. In the quieter stage of her life, she still carries the aura of the woman who once reshaped American teen culture. Her current net worth is around $11 million. Mackenzie Aston as Andy Moffat. Mackenzie Aston was born on May 12, 1973, in Los Angeles, California. In 1985, at only 12 years old, he joined The Facts of Life as Andy Moffat, the quick, kind-hearted boy who entered the show right as it shifted into a more mature phase. But behind that bright, innocent smile was a childhood scarred by the instability of growing up in a deeply troubled artistic family. His mother, legendary actress Patty Duke, suffered from severe bipolar disorder, and from a young age Mackenzie lived in constant emotional chaos, forced to grow up much faster than other kids. By his early 20s, those cracks finally burst open. He became addicted to alcohol, lost control, and in 1994 suffered a near-fatal accident. It was the blow that finally woke him up, pushing him into rehab, healing, and the slow process of rebuilding his life from the wreckage. Still, fate wasn't done testing him, not even close. His mother passed away in 2016, and Mackenzie almost collapsed a second time. But instead of falling back into darkness, he threw himself into work. The Magicians, Scandal, Homeland, You. With every role, it was as if he was trying to prove to himself that he was still strong enough to stand. In 2025, Mackenzie Aston is 52, living quietly with his wife Jennifer Bouts, steadily acting in television projects like a man who has chosen a slower life to make sure he never slips off the edge again. His current net worth is around $5 million. Pamela Adlon as Kelly Affinado. Pamela Adlon was born on July 9, 1966 in New York City, and in 1983, at just 17, she entered The Facts of Life as Kelly Affinado, the rebellious, slightly reckless yet undeniably magnetic girl who embodied the don't bow to anyone spirit of youth. Though she appeared only briefly, Kelly made her mark among a cast of familiar faces, much like Pamela herself would later do in Hollywood. Few people know that this tough, fiery girl grew up in a difficult household, with her parents divorcing early and her life constantly shifting between New York and Los Angeles. The more famous Pamela became, the more unstable she felt. In her 20s, she could barely find roles, surviving only on small voice-acting gigs, which she later admitted had saved her life when her career was at its lowest point. Her marriage collapsed in 2010, leaving her alone with 3 young daughters, juggling acting, writing, producing, and directing, as if she couldn't afford to fall apart even once. She pushed through those chaotic decades with a level of grit rarely seen, fighting to escape the shadow of Louis C.K., standing strong through Scandal, and writing, starring, directing. Better things to finally tell her own story. In 2025, Pamela Adlon is 59, splitting her life between Los Angeles and New York, still acting, voice acting, and directing as if her life had never stopped being heavy. But she keeps moving forward anyway. Her current net worth is around $16 million. Alex Rocco as Charlie Polniacek. Alex Rocco was born on February 29, 1936, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and in 1981, at age 45, he joined The Facts of Life as Charlie Polniacek, Joe's tough but loving father. No one expected that behind that gravelly voice and stern expression was a man who had once lived on the very edge of darkness. Before he ever became an actor, Alex was a member of Boston's notorious Winter Hill Gang, involved in fights, vandalism, and even accused of indirect involvement in a murder case. The violent arrests, indictments, and constant danger of the 1960s forced Alex to flee everything he knew and escape to California to outrun his past. And in that strange new place, with Leonard Nimoy's help, he retrained his speech, shed his heavy Boston accent, and started his career almost from zero, as if he were learning how to be a human being all over again. As his career opened up, Alex still faced blow after blow. His first marriage collapsed, his second wife died of cancer, and his adopted son Mark King, a talented director, also passed away far too young. Through the never-ending grief, he clung to acting as his last anchor, eventually becoming the iconic Moe Greene in The Godfather. Alex Rocco died on July 18, 2015, in Studio City, from pancreatic cancer, at the age of 79. He was cremated quietly, ending a life as turbulent as the characters he so often portrayed. His net worth at the time of his death was around $800,000. John Lawler as headmaster. Stephen Bradley. John Lawler was born on June 5, 1941, in Troy, New York, and in 1979, at age 38, he stepped into the facts of life as headmaster Stephen Bradley, the strict, polished administrator who quietly protected the girls with a deeply responsible heart. Although he appeared only in the early phase, his portrayal of a principled yet warm authority figure became the foundation of the show's first season. But behind the calm, steady gaze on screen was a man who had returned from the Vietnam War carrying invisible wounds, PTSD, sleepless nights, and a quiet fear that followed him for years. John's career was always a tug-of-war between the discipline required to perform and the sudden, overwhelming waves of trauma he fought to control. His marriage to Tantu Cardinal fractured and eventually fell apart, leaving behind 2 children and a father who was haunted by the feeling that he had never been a strong enough anchor for his family. In the years that followed, John tried to hold on to acting through small roles in L.A. Law, Breaking Bad, The Rockford Files, but the emotional freefall after his divorce and his increasing dependence on alcohol sent him spiraling more than once. Friends recalled days when he arrived on set with red, sleepless eyes, yet still pushed himself through scenes as if acting were the only escape from the darkness closing in on him. And when Hollywood slowly forgot him, John quietly stepped away from the spotlight, moving to New Mexico to heal by caring for wildlife. John Lawler passed away on February 13, 2025, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, at the age of 83. He left peacefully, without fanfare, just as he lived his final years, hidden among the mountains, surrounded only by animals and the stillness of a life marked by deep wounds. His net worth at the time of his death was about $2 million. Jerry Jewell as Jerry Tyler. Jerry Jewell was born on September 13, 1956, in Buffalo, New York. In 1980, at just 24 years old, she appeared in The Facts of Life as Jerry Tyler, Blair's cousin with cerebral palsy, becoming the first performer with a disability to have a recurring role in American television. It was a historic milestone, but it also marked the beginning of a long string of hardships the audience never saw. Behind the laughter and strength she showed on screen was a life shaped by cerebral palsy, isolation, and the pain of discrimination that began in childhood. When she was suddenly written off the show in 1984, her own manager embezzled her money and left her drowning in debt, a double blow that sent her life into a downward spiral. The following years were bleak. She became dependent on sleeping pills, was taken advantage of, and was treated by the entertainment industry as nothing more than a special novelty. Yet amid the wreckage, she was invited to speak at the White House, opening the door to a new journey as a powerful voice for disability rights. As a speaker, diversity consultant, and author, Jerry rewrote her life with her own inner strength. She came out, divorced her husband, confronted prejudice head-on, continued acting in Deadwood, and won awards for her second memoir. Her resilience helped an entire generation understand that Hollywood once overlooked a remarkable talent simply because of bias. In 2025, Jerry Jewell is 69, still appearing at inclusion events, still writing, still speaking, and still serving as a living testament to the fight against discrimination in the entertainment industry. She lives simply and peacefully, with an estimated net worth of around $1 million, modest compared to the profound legacy she leaves behind. Roger Perry as Charles Parker. Roger Perry was born on May 7, 1933, in Davenport, Iowa. In 1979, at 46 years old, he appeared in The Facts of Life as Principal Charles Parker. Though a small role, it was one of the few bright spots in the later years of his decades-long film and television career. Few people know that Roger was once an intelligence officer in the U.S. Air Force before entering Hollywood, where he became a familiar face throughout the 1960s to the 1980s. But behind the spotlight was a private life filled with turmoil. 2 marriages that fell apart, years of struggling with health issues, and a quiet retreat as his career slowed. Even so, he always carried himself with the same calm warmth that made audiences love Principal Parker. In his later years, Perry lived peacefully with his final wife, Joyce Bulifant, appearing at film festivals and spending time with family. But prostate cancer followed him silently for many years, a long, private battle that few knew about. As the illness worsened, he chose to step back from public life and live his final days as quietly as possible. Sadly, Roger Perry passed away on July 12, 2018, at his home, at the age of 85, leaving behind deep affection from friends and fans who had grown up watching him. His net worth is estimated at around $2 million. Not a huge amount for such a long career, but enough to honor a steady, dedicated talent whom Hollywood never fully appreciated. Marge Doucet as Monica Warner. Marge Doucet was born on February 20, 1936, in Russell, Kansas. In 1979, at 43 years old, she stepped into the role of Monica Warner, the wealthy, sharp-tongued, commanding mother in The Facts of Life. The character became memorable for her icy elegance and total control. But in real life, Marge was fighting battles far more painful than anything she portrayed on screen. Behind the glow of studio lights were wounds she carried quietly for years. Her first marriage ended in heartbreak, leaving her to raise 2 children while navigating one of the harshest industries in America. Just as her soap opera career reached its peak with Guiding Light, she suffered the greatest loss of her life. Her son Randy died of AIDS in 1993. Marge collapsed under the weight of grief, but Hollywood gave her no room to pause. She was forced to return to work with a professional smile while her heart was breaking. Those powerful, ruthless characters she played so brilliantly were, in truth, armor. Thin protection for a mother living with an unhealed wound. A career spanning more than 4 decades never made Marge's life easier. After her second husband died in 1987, she faced old age alone, juggling contract pressure, staff cuts, and the constant fear of being replaced, an all-too-familiar reality for older women in Hollywood. She was celebrated publicly as a soap opera queen, but privately she endured illness, loneliness, and a grief no one could see. Each return to Guiding Light felt like a final attempt to hold on to her artistic identity in an industry that rarely shows mercy, especially to aging actresses. Marge Doucet passed away on January 28, 2020, in Manhattan, at the age of 83, leaving behind a deep sense of loss among fans. Behind Monica Warner's razor-sharp wit was a lifetime of suffering, resilience, and extraordinary strength. Her estimated net worth at the time of her death was about $1 million, a modest figure, yet one that reflects a long journey marked by pain, perseverance, and unbreakable spirit. From fame to heartbreak, from the 1980s all the way to 2025, they have lived through far more than we ever knew. And there are still countless hidden stories the public has never heard. Whose life do you want us to uncover next? Hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and leave your request in the comments below.